on. We have this agenda for this webinar. We are going to start by this welcome and webinar objectives by myself, Ana Maria Majano, who is a member of the coordinating team in the practice community MetLAC by the LEDS LAC regional platform. We are going to have a presentation by Catherine Seller, who is a part of the C40 Secretariat regarding experiences from C40 member cities in the Global North. We are going to see the participation of the private sector on reducing organic waste. We are going to have an experiences panel from LAC by the government of the city of Buenos Aires and SIMBA in Peru. And then we're going to have a section of comments by a member of MetLAC. And then we're going to have some challenges and opportunities for Latin America and the Caribbean. After that, we're going to have some questions and answers, and then we're going to have the conclusions and the closing by Santiago Uribe from CCAP. Go ahead. Here we have some general instructions. This webinar is being recorded, and both the webinar and the presentations are going to be available after this webinar is over in our website. We are going to receive all the general comments by the chat, but for the questions to the panelists, please write those questions in the Zoom Q&A section. And before starting, we would like to tell you that about the community practice. MetLAC is a joint initiative by the organization CCAP, ImplementaSur, in the Recycle Organics program and the regional platform LEDS LAC, supported by the Global Methane Hub. The objective of this practice community is to promote and support the development of public policies, business models, and investment projects to reduce methane emissions and to progress some technologies and innovations for this reduction in Latin America and the Caribbean. MetLAC promotes dialogue and discussion and collaboration and experiences exchange among members of this community, and that are part of 41 members institutions from 13 countries in the region and 2 organizations with a regional scope. In this webinar that we are organizing today with C40, and Catherine is going to tell us a little bit more about C40. But our goals from this webinar is to promote action on the part of city governments to strengthen the enabling environment for private sector's actions and investments aimed at reducing the volume of organic waste reaching landfills and consequently reducing methane emissions, besides all the other benefits. And also, we have the goal to highlight opportunities for private companies to enhance economic and sustainability results by contributing to the reduction of organic waste. So from MetLAC and the partner organizations and C40, we would like to welcome and thank you for being here in this webinar. We would like to know a little bit more about you. So before starting the first presentation, we are going to ask you to go into this website, this Menti website. You can go into the link or you can use directly the QR code. you are seeing the code there is 5928-3595, or you can scan the QR code. And also in the chat, you can find the instructions, because we would like to know a little bit more about you. So please answer these questions. From where are you connecting? Thank you very much. We're seeing Brazil, Buenos Aires, Honduras, Peru, Argentina, Chile, Germany, Bahia Blanca in Argentina, Dominican Republic. Thank you very much for being here. Also Mexico City. Thank you very much for being here from so many countries in Latin America and other regions. So please continue to answer this question. What country are you connecting from? We also have people from Bolivia. We are almost 90 people here in this webinar, and we are glad to see that you are connecting from so many different countries. Also, we have people from Sao Paulo, Uruguay, Bucaramanga, Colombia. Welcome to all of you. And now we would like to ask, what sector do you work in? National government, local government, international cooperation, private sector, academia, or other sectors? We are seeing some answers now. Some of you are working in the national government, local government as well. Thank you for being here. We also have some people from the private sector, international cooperation as well. And some people are also answering by the chat. Thank you very much. Thank you to all of the attendees. We need all the sectors working together to make these required transformations for more sustainable and resilient development. So thank you very much for being here. And now we would like to welcome you again. And now we are going to start with our first presentation. Now we're going to give the floor to Catherine Seller. She's going to talk about experiences from the Z40 member cities. Catherine is part of the Z40 Secretariat, and we are going to ask Catherine to explain first what Z40 is, because maybe some of the attendees don't know about Z40. And also she's going to tell us about experiences from Z40 member cities in the Global North regarding the private sector engagement for reducing organic waste. Thank you very much, Catherine, for being here. And thank you for being in this webinar. And go ahead, please.
Thanks so much for welcoming me here, and welcome to everybody that's assisting today. I'm going to take a few minutes to explain what we have learned as Z40 working with cities on the topic about reducing organic waste, or specifically food waste today in cities. And I'm going to slide share. And you should be able to see my presentation now. Thanks a lot. So I would like to start explaining a bit about Z40. So we are an organization that works specifically with big cities around the globe. So we have presence in all of the different regions around the world. We work mainly with cities that have more than 3 million inhabitants. However, There are some exceptions as well, specifically for cities that have come up with very ambitious plans, that have implemented specifically intriguing projects. So there are a few exceptions to that. We also aim specifically at reducing greenhouse gas emissions. So all the work that we are doing is really focusing on the reduction of emissions. We do that throughout different sectors. Waste management is one of them, and we also work in a range of different areas, such as public transport or electricity, for example. With that said, I'm responsible in C40 for one of the networks that we have around waste management, which is called the Sustainable Waste Systems Network. In this network, we work specifically with Global South cities. There is an additional network that works more with Global North cities. And we have this split due to a range of different discussions that are happening in the different regions. So in Global South cities, we talk a lot about organic waste treatment from the perspective of how to start different projects. It has a bit of a more decentralized perspective as well, to make sure that communities are integrated. And the discussions are a bit different. However, today I'm going to talk a bit more about the experiences that we have collected in Global North cities, as food waste reduction hasn't been a topic that was that present yet in the work that we are doing in the Sustainable Waste Systems Network. However, it's becoming so increasingly, and this is also why we are having the session today. So there are a lot of opportunities in this area, and these opportunities are also captured in different commitments that we have offered to the cities that we are working with. And we have 3 different ones that touch on the specific topic. So you can see that we have 3 different commitments that work around food waste or organic waste in general. And those are commitments that cities have made together with C40. So cities are kind of making a commitment with us, and then C40 makes kind of a commitment to help cities achieve these different actions, which is the work that we are doing in the networks, support that we try to organize for the cities that have made these commitments, which are, as you can see, quite ambitious, and specifically also for Global South cities. We work along the waste hierarchy. Just as a reminder, this is nothing new to anyone who's on the call today, but just as a reminder that we are really looking at the very beginning, at the top of the waste hierarchy, where we also consider that the actions that are being taken have a really big impact in terms of the emissions reduction potential. To further highlight this point, this really shows the potential for emissions reductions when looking at organic waste in cities. And this is also specific for Global South cities. So we are, as part of our work, also supporting cities in constructing their climate action plans. In the process, we also help cities to capture data around the emissions that are generated throughout the different sectors. So we have a quite good understanding of, specifically for the cities that we are working with, where emissions are coming from and how the pathways are looking when we make projections for the next decades. What we can see here is that there is a lot of potential when we look in Global South cities at the disposal opportunities, and moving away from dump sites to really getting to landfilling and more sophisticated disposal. However, the point that I really want to highlight here is that this is a big potential that is being recognized a lot. But if we think a bit further into the future, you can also see that the green area is something that really extends in opposition to the disposal part that really declines along the time. So not to diminish this opportunity, that's really looking at disposal is really something important, but the opportunities around organic diversion and also reduction sometimes look a bit smaller, also because often we start on a much smaller scale and we don't see the huge impacts that immediately. However, when we look more into the future, there is really a lot of opportunity, and the impact specifically for emissions reductions is really big. So today we want to look at the private sector specifically. So C40 works with cities, and we also try to understand where cities can have their highest impact when they try to decide about where to invest the capacity and the opportunities that they have. So one thing that we try to understand, and this is an example from Northern American cities, as you can see, is where the biggest chunks of food waste are actually produced. So mentioned that this is from North America, it gives you an idea of that it varies quite a lot across different cities. And we unfortunately don't have that kind of information for cities in Latin America. If somebody has, I'd be really interested in seeing this for Latin American or Caribbean cities as well. But this really still shows that one of the big areas that produce food waste a lot is the green part, which is the residential part of cities. But then there's also a big dark blue chunk, which is from hotels and restaurants. You can also see smaller parts than from retail and so on. So there is really a lot of impact that can be achieved by looking also at the private sector here. We also know that many times working with waste management, there is a cost attached. And in this case here, we are looking at the very rare case where there is actually an opportunity also financially. So you can look at this piece of research that was done by Champions 123 that really work a lot with food waste reduction. And they have found out that every dollar invested in food waste reduction in the private sector actually really generates a return of $14. So this is really on average. So there are some that can achieve more or a bit less, but this is really an opportunity. And so really highlighting here that this is a rare case where cities together with the private sector can really generate win-win situations and come up with projects that are also financially quite viable. The journey of action is true for both cities, but also businesses that would like to engage in this area. So it's always recommended to start with a baseline where the institution, the city, or the business tries to understand first what the amount of food waste that is actually generated is, and then potentially also connected to the emissions that are generated by that waste generation. So you can then later come back and really understand the actions that you are taking in terms of the impact that they are creating. So baseline setting for the generation of waste, but potentially also in terms of the financial aspects. So you can really also understand the benefits and the value that is additionally created through action taken in that area. Once you have a baseline and you know where you are, you can start creating targets. We generally recommend to set targets a bit more into the future, so you really have an ideal and something where you want to get to in a mid or long term, but then also include some milestones along the way so you can check and make sure that you are on the right way, and you can also already understand the extra value that's created along the line, and not just once you get to the final target. With this, you are ready to set up a strategy and get into the process of decision making around which actions have the highest impact or are the most viable, depending on the business or the institution that is working on it, and get to implementation and evaluation afterwards, where you can then, as I just mentioned, get back to the baseline and understand the impact that has been created. So this as a bit of a northern star to guide any thinking around planning of action. And then I would like to also highlight a few examples that we have found in C40, and also share a range of areas. So we have found that there are pretty much 4 different areas where cities have been active to try and create really that enabling environment for the business community to become active, understand the opportunity, and start developing strategies and implementation. So the first area that we see a lot is around campaigns. This is a lot related to trying to create some kind of behavioral change. So cities would use the local media, for example, partner up with different restaurants, with the parts of businesses and companies where they understand that they can find the biggest parts of food waste generated, but also can have the highest impact. So you can see that I've included an example from Hong Kong, where they had a media campaign that was called Foodwise, with a mascot that you can see there that was appearing all over the city. So they campaigned together with restaurants, and what they also did was to create these kinds of different awards to have an incentive for restaurants to sign up to this. So depending on the level of engagement, a restaurant or a hotel that took place could achieve one of these different awards, and then kind of put it on the door and become more attractive also specifically to consumers that really want to see that kind of engagement from their local business community. I'm going to just mention a few of the examples, but I'm happy for the presentation slides to be shared afterwards. So you can come back to it and also click on the links that I've included if you want to find out more about each one of these examples. The second one is on collaboration and partnerships. We see that a lot is being achieved by cities really formalizing the cooperation between different sectors in cities. So not just ad hoc meetings, but really coming together and having some kind of a constant dialogue that allows for the understanding of the situation, an assessment, a constant assessment of needs and opportunities. And an example that I'm bringing here is from Washington, D.C., where they have the so-called Food Recovery Working Group, which is really a group of local businesses, NGOs, universities that can also come in with some learnings around data, for example. They can help figuring out baselines, for example, or understand where biggest impacts can be made, how to make these processes also as inclusive as possible, and really come up with a more holistic approach to reducing food waste. We also see, just mentioning this quickly, and I'm sure that you all came across the different apps that are out there, like Olio or Too Good to Waste and others, just to mention two of them that help to make the connection between businesses that have foods at the end of the day and so far haven't known what to do with it. So they're here now to help finding consumers that are also happy taking up this part and really help basically within coordination effort to make sure that food is not being wasted and still can get to consumers at the end of the day. Then a third area that's really successful is building capacity. We see that a lot of businesses are very interested in the area and have ideally already understood that this is really an opportunity to invest as well to making their businesses better and really achieve great results. However, sometimes you would not know where exactly you want to start. So cities have recognized this and have started to create different tools or even direct technical assistance to cities so they can get some support as well to accelerate their journey towards reducing food waste. So we have from London, for example, there was a program that was called Food Safe, which did audits for around 200 small and medium businesses, where they really helped them to establish a baseline and try to understand the situation and how to best move forward. Philadelphia has also created a guide that can help businesses to do the estimation, which is really, as we have learned, really one of the tricky parts. And then also how to take action, what's out there in the city, what are the different opportunities, like learning where are the networks that I can go to if I have surplus food, who can I talk to, who are the NGOs. So providing all of that information to make this a successful endeavor for the cities and help them to find their way around. And then lastly, what we've seen to be specifically impactful is direct legislation or also the setting of incentives. So from Milan, for example, we have seen that they have set a 20% reduction of tax for businesses that donate their surplus food. And they have not only created the tax, but also created a network of rescue hubs that can then absorb these additional donations and distribute them to wherever it's most needed within the city. We also, and you can see that I've included also a few examples beyond C40 where we have really intriguing examples. So there is Connecticut that has, instead of an incentive, has created mandatory food waste donation. So businesses starting from a certain size, this doesn't count for small businesses, and I think medium businesses, I'm not sure, but bigger businesses are mandated to donate their food waste. And then one last point that I also want to address, because it's often a bit of a challenge for businesses to understand who's really responsible legally at the end. So liability issues and concerns around food security are really important, and cities have also helped to address this issue, as Los Angeles here, for example, with a food rescue guide where they specifically inform businesses about the liabilities, how they can act to make sure that they don't get into any legal trouble afterwards. So there is really legal security here as well. I will end here with a few considerations. So what I really would like to highlight is that this is a great opportunity that can be taken both with an initiative from cities, but also from the business community. It's in the interest of everybody that's involved to really get into a conversation and figure out how to bring projects to life and understand the situation, how to make use of this opportunity, and bring a lot of additional co-benefits as well to the city. So what I haven't even touched on is really also the possibilities to create additional opportunities to close food gaps, for example, in vulnerable inhabitants in the city, and really close the circle here to get to a organic circular economy. And I'll pause here for any question and discussions.
Thank you, Catherine, for your presentation. We would like to invite the audience to share their questions and also save their questions for the Q&A. Now we're going to continue with the experiences from Latin America and the Caribbean. We're going to have two speakers. They are part of MetLAC CDP. I am sure that you know them, and I'm delighted that their experiences are going to be quite valuable. We have Andrea Pais. She is the operation manager for new technologies from the government of the city of Buenos Aires. She's going to start talking about the involvement of the private sector in reducing organic waste, such as the composting plants, as well as the advantages and challenges that they have found along the way, along the learned lessons that they have shared. We also have Simba. We have Pipo Racer. He's manager and co-founder. If you don't know Simba, Simba is a private company. This company has been working in Lima, Peru, and it is certified as a B company. What they do is that they work on sorting waste in order to produce animal feed. So he's going to discuss what are the enabling conditions, what are the policies, regulations, maybe what are the conditions that could hinder the progress, and all of the lessons learned from these processes. Without further ado, I would like to invite Andrea to share her experience. Yes. Good morning, good afternoon. Thank you, Graciela. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to share my experience. I am going to share my screen. I would like to get a confirmation if you are looking at it. It's loading at the moment, but it's not on presentation mode. Yes, give me a second so I can change it. I was just playing with some options here, but it did not work out. How about now? Yes, we're able to see it now. Good. Okay, my name is Andrea. I work from the government of the city of Buenos Aires, and now I have the chance to share different type of experiences, particularly for the private and public sector working together for projects of evaluation on organic waste. So just a brief introduction, talking about the Buenos Aires Autonomous City. This city has an extension of 203 square kilometers. It's a dense city with more than 15 inhabitants per square meters. We are having more than 1 million people going in and out of the city. So this high volume generates 6,000 tons per waste per day. So we could say that most of them are organic waste, and 50% of this is food waste, and the rest is related to forestry and green waste. So along this context, talking about the volume of waste produced in the city, we have developed a plan to value this organic waste in the long run. Here, I can show you the different phases or the different steps that we are going to implement in order to start building a organic waste treatment plant. Last year, we worked with ImplementaSur in a pre-feasibility study for this plant. Furthermore, we have encouraged the development of a collection private service for organic waste, and we have extended the little plan that we are currently working with. So I am going to click on this, and then I am going to start sharing my experience. Still, I wanted to talk about the long-term plans that we have. Next year, we're going to have a feasibility study in 2026. We're going to start with assembling the folders and for the bidding. We're going to start with the hygiene service. Of course, this is going to include the collection of the organic waste. That's why this is a milestone for us that we're considering. In year 2027, we're going to start the PTO construction. We're going to do a standard modification. So all the entities that generate waste are able to sort their own waste. So if everything works suitably, on 2028, we're going to start with a new hygiene contract. And on 2029, we're going to start operating our plant with a large scale capacity. We know that this is not a total amount of waste of the city, but this is a first step to start climbing with different type of solutions on the same plant. Now, I would like to start discussing the extension of the organic waste treatment plant. On 2016, we started developing the first plant. This had a processing amount of 10 tons. Throughout the years, this started extending to 20 or 30. This year, we started operating the plant in its largest capacity. We started with 45 tons. So basically, the plant works with the restaurant wastes, for example, and this comes separated from the source. So within the plant, we have an injection of air, there's an aerobic process, and there's a digestion of this residue, you would say. So the changes that happen along this plant first would be the increase of capacity. We went from 30 to 45 tons per day. We also did a whole reconfiguration, a reinvestment, and we included a second process. The first step was that the organic matter enters into the reactors. There's a first degradation process there, and then the material is properly stored in these grids. And this enables that the material has a storage time that will be more suitable, and the product will be of a better quality. Afterwards, we work with the trommel, and then we sell the product. How does this contract work? Well, we performed under the bidding act of the Autonomous City of Buenos Aires. Basically, it's a bot style. What does it mean? That we construct, we operate, and then what we do is that we transfer the civil works and the fixed machinery to the City of Buenos Aires. In 2022, we did the reconditioning and maintenance and operation service of the plant. In this case, since there were different matters, particularly the socioeconomical aspects of the country, we decided that the investment for the extension of the plant was going to be an investment coming from the private sector. So that means the private sector was going to build or work with the civil works and provide the machinery. Now, the company that worked with the civil works was going to be in charge of the maintenance of the plant as well. The duration of the contract is 12 years. It is true that the duration compared to other biddings from the city of Buenos Aires is not common. We started to do an extension. That means 12 years, but to be extended for another 12. Okay, so the city of Buenos Aires pays a fee per recovered or collected ton. Okay, this includes the OIM and financing. The other aspects relates to selling these products. This takes place in the plant. They have the will to sell, the product, and the mobile machinery in this case was also provided by the private sector. So all the mobile machinery, once we complete the construction, is demobilized. Okay, but in the end, let's say that the plant as such will be the property of the city of Buenos Aires. Some of the challenges throughout these type of processes, we would like to mention here that we are agree that maybe some things should be improved, but this is related to the development of the folders. The contracting and bidding process sometimes could take up to 10 months. So this is too long. We need to speed it up for the process. We also need to consider the registry of the suppliers. We need to make this system more simple because we need to open up this market for the suppliers to come to us. We also need to find a thin line between the demands and opening up these markets for medium and large companies because we want them to be part of this process. And this last item is important. We need to assess this experience that we have at the moment. Is it good for us, or we need to find a new experience for the future plan that we're trying to build in this case? Well, just to summarize the extension of the plan. In the Q&A, I'm sure that we're going to be able to talk a little bit more about this, but I would like to talk about the first organic waste private collection service. This is something that we implemented in the city of Buenos Aires. Just to give you a little bit of history, the city of Buenos Aires is providing a service for organic waste collection since 2015. These services, of course, nurture the plan that we have. But at the start of 2024, we already had 6 collection routes with more than 350 locations. But these were mainly supermarkets, hotels, and restaurants. We know that this provides a lot of let's say, raw matter, but we also consider these special generators. What does that mean? They need to cost, or they need to pay for their own human waste collection and their own disposal in the sanitary backfield. But from the start of 2014, there was a change of perspective because we started incorporated the large generators of organic waste, which are the supermarkets or vegetables stores, because what they do is that they dispose the organic waste in containers. And of course, this generates hygiene problems or sanitation problems. So that's why we started thinking about a composting large-scale plant, because of course, we want to receive all the material, all the raw material from these generators. And the big question was, who is going to transport this? That's why last year we started the first discussions with some private companies that collect this human waste, because we wanted to understand if they were interested in developing this model for organic waste collection. And in 2024, we decided to do this shift we had more than 60 areas. Like I said, hotels, restaurants. We started talking to companies. These were not companies related to organic waste collection in the public sector. And we decided to just suppress the 60 areas. We went to them and we started discussing on the pilot plan. We said, okay, this plan has finished, but we are working along with these other companies in order to have a smooth transition. In May, we suppressed these 60 areas and we signed an agreement act with the companies to establish responsibilities. And we defined that the entry to our treatment plan was going to be free for them. And this was really important because this was a good benefit for them, for the waste generators. And from July, we started with the collection service. This is working quite well. We are including more areas coming from the private sector. And this generated lots of benefits. Well, the benefit from the city of Buenos Aires was that it enabled us to have a large amount of organic waste without having to invest on more services. For special generators, well, there was a possibility to generate economic savings, particularly if we have a diversification on collection frequencies. That means if you collect 3 days for moist waste and another time for dry, this would be able to compile both collections. It would be even more suitable than separating this. And of course, the benefit from the collection companies was that we were able to generate a new business unit. And of course, we're expecting to expand. Some of the challenges that we've had to face with this implementation was that we need to talk to articulate our efforts with other areas of Buenos Aires, because let's say if we have a good storage from one day to the other, the city of Buenos Aires is able to provide an audit to that area. So we need, that's why, sorry, we need to properly articulate our efforts with them to provide a good sanitation process. We need to alternate the collection frequencies as well. And something that is important to mention, and this is something that should happen on 2026, is to be honest about the real information and collection that we have in order to start dividing the material and receiving the material in the future treatment plan. Okay. Something to discuss and some examples that I had to mention. We need to properly write these contracting bindings, and we need to make sure that the service of the treatment plant to be each time better. So this public and private market needs to properly adapt to the context of the country, because the initial investment that took place in 2014 was a government investment. There was a socio-economical context that enabled us to do that. However, in 2022, that context changed completely. The private sector needed to finance the civil works. And for the future treatment plan, we are assessing an implementation of public and private association, which is a bot, and private market can invest, we can finance, and we could have additional benefit for the private market, in which the large generators can pay a fee per disposal in this new composting plant. And I'm sure that this is going to provide benefits for the market, because we're going to be able to cost operation and maintenance fees. This was a brief presentation, I'm sure, but we're going to be able to discuss further in the Q&A. So thank you for your time. Yes, thank you, Andrea. This was an impressive presentation. I think that learning about the experience of a city as large as Buenos Aires is quite interesting. We have identified items, the challenges, the learned lessons, and the new steps in the new process that you are going through. So this is quite interesting to be able to share with countries and other members of the community in this webinar. Go ahead, people. Thank you, Graciela. Just give me 1 second. So, because right now, this is a password that is asking.
Thank you for this opportunity of sharing what we are doing here in Lima, Peru. My name is Pipo Racer. I'm the general manager of Simba. And we are not the Lion King, but Simba is not because of that. We are working for a world without garbage. So in Spanish, that would be Sin basura. This is a context that is known by everyone, but just to let you know, in Peru, we generate 30,000 tons per day of solid waste, the equivalent of 3 national stadia. And organic waste is the #1 waste generated. And we could reuse 76%, but we are reusing 10%. So we have 76% of, with tracing and formality, we are reusing only 2% according to the environment, the Ministry of the Environment. Peru is way behind regarding reusing waste, so we have a lot to do. And finally, we estimate, and this data, this 2% data, maybe is not the reality because most of the recovery of the materials happen in the informal sector. So we estimate that around 90% of our waste goes into landfills or dams. Of course, one of these options is better, but we would like to prevent this scenario. With no waste, we would like to have this waste becoming added values and not pollution. And this is not only an environmental impact, because it also impacts people, especially the people who work in this sector. We have more than 180,000 recycles in Peru, both females and male. And more than 90% works in an informal way. They are living in a high risk and vulnerability conditions. If you have visited Lima, Lima is not very safe right now. So just imagine that these recycles are working in the middle of the night and many of them lose their lives. And also regarding public health, this is very polluting and they generates a lot of GHG. 15% of these emissions come from the waste disposal. And more in detail regarding the organic waste sector, we started to study the waste issue from a restaurant, a particular restaurant. And we started to see this word that is called pig farm, that this is a type of recycle. We have different of recyclers here, and it depends on the material they are working with. And the pig farm recyclers are the ones who are working with organic waste. And you can see that the conditions are very bad. The waste are mixed with other types of waste. They don't have any accreditations. They don't have any authorizations. And of course, this becomes a very significant public health issue. This is a real photo. You can see here Inca Cola, that is one of our national drinks. And this is a reality in Lima. We have 8,000 of these pig farms in Lima. And 40% of the pork that we eat in Lima come from this place. So this is not an exception, and this is not something minor. This is a systemic problem in our country. And if we see the hierarchy for waste management, after consumption, we have the animal use. So the literature says that the animals should eat what we are not eating as humans. But the issue is not what they are doing, because many studies from Oxford and other places are saying that this is correct, but the issue is how they are doing this. And there is a large disconnection among the different participants. For example, the recycler just takes the problem away, and the other agent doesn't have any capacity to generate bigger changes. We also need to know that Peru has a very sound regulation for managing waste. And basically, the circular economy is a pillar of this model. Regarding this waste management, it is mandatory, and that we have to prioritize reusing. And if you know the Peruvian reality, we know that this is not being complied with. But at least we have legal regulations. And facing this reality, sometimes what we face is that everyone would like a change. Everyone needs a change. But when we ask who is willing to change, it becomes more difficult. We founded Simba in 2016 to try to co-create a waste-free world where nothing is wasted and no one is left behind. So we have to identify as part of the solution. Everyone complains about the waste that they see on the roads, but they do not recognize that they are generating this waste. So we are trying to visualize this issue. We work on the Simba cycle. This webinar is focused on organic waste, and we started working with organic waste, but we are also working with inorganic waste, such as plastics, metals, glass. The pillar of our income, because we are a company, we have a B accreditation, we work in a social environmental context, but we are a company, we are a corporation, and we need to create an income. So the pillar for this income is the ImplementaSur. So we charge a fixed fee for these companies, and this includes collection, training, and recover of these materials. And we take this material to the Simba Hub, that is our 2 plants. We have the organic plants and also the circ, where we recycle inorganic material. Finally, we process this material here, so they become part of the local community. And we create this circular economies model. We have trained more than 45,000 people. For our clients, we reduce 80% of the waste, both organic and inorganic. We have created more than 70 respectable employments, and we also have a fair trade model. And we have generated or recovered more than 15,000 tons. That is a reduction of 18,000 tons of CO2. And these recovered waste become materials for the local industries. So we are also creating the opportunity for these local industries to become more sustainable. And going into detail for our processes, we decided to invest on our infrastructure because we didn't have a lot of infrastructure available in Peru. We didn't have many actors to collaborate with. So we started to create our own infrastructure. We started with a biofactory This is a plant where we dry the organic waste and we completely recover them. Then we have circ that I already mentioned. We reuse more than 20 types of materials with recyclers. That is why this is an inclusive center. And we also have our own logistic fleet. We have 8 trucks, and among them we have the first waste management electrical truck, and we also have gas trucks. And we have been growing, we have been developing. We started to work in 2017, and now we're working with more than 80 companies in the environment. You can see some very well-known names there, such as Sheraton, Starbucks. We work with more than 140 centers, even universities, schools. We started talking about restaurants, but we discovered that all of these places have a lot of waste and they become a potential customer. We also have some projects and consulting. We have worked with many organizations such as UNDP and other organizations. And what we do is we use our expertise to generate projects on to conduct some studies. We also have some strategic partners. We have worked with many different and important companies to generate this kind of projects. And this was an innovation that was created during the pandemic. It is a service for the households. So the different Lima households, they can require our services. We have 350 families from more than 20 districts that are working with us. Initially, we thought that this was not going to work because it has an added cost, but we have seen that we are already working with 350 families. Something that is very important for us is to generate data through transparency and tracing. So all of our customers receive these reports, also the accreditations. They can see their monthly and annual reports. And this is an additional value for our company. Our digital platform has all the processes there, so we can make this impact visible. And also the accreditation for everything that we are doing. We would like to achieve some credits, both for plastic and carbon, to monetize what we are doing even more. We have some competitors that are informal, so it is very difficult to do things right in this context. Regarding the organic waste, I was talking about the biofactory and the complete recover. We incorporate 2 parallel processes to have this complete waste recover. We have a plant where we process the waste and we produce this flour that is dehydrated organic wastes. And we sell this to intermediary producers. This is not a final product, but it is a material that has some protein and calories, and it becomes food for animals. And we also have composting. We have been changing our model. Graciela and her team were here last year, or I think 2 years ago. And we have been incorporating composting, especially for waste that has a high level of humidity. This became very expensive, and that's why we are working with compost now. Here you can see a brief video. This is the process. We receive the organic waste in these containers. They are taken by our trucks. Cleaning these containers is also very important. We have a quality control in this conveyor, and then the waste is taken into this plant, into this machine. Here we have the container that then we take to the composting plant. And finally, we have these large bags. I have another quick video. And it's talking about how they manage this waste. They take this waste to the biofactory. They have a second segregation of the waste here to guarantee that all the waste that enters is apt for the food for the animals. And if they cannot use some of this waste, it is taken for composting. And they turn this waste to food for many animals. Well, this is a video that we have in our media, in our social network, and we really love to show what we are doing. Many companies try to hide what they are doing, but we are very transparent and open about our work. We receive or we welcome visitors from the ministries, from the universities, from our customers as well. So I think that it is really important to show what we are doing so people understand where the waste is going. In this sense, we work not only with social media, we also work with the regular media. We have been part of some of these newspapers, and we communicate what we are doing. We are very active communicating. I think this is an added value that we have. We use networks. We have more than 70,000 followers in our social networks. And we have also created some partnerships with different other actors. For example, El Gran Chef, that was a very popular show here in Peru. So part of our goal is to raise awareness, so people start thinking about waste management. When we started in this work, we didn't know what happened with our waste and the impact that it had. So I think that it is important to raise awareness and to show our work. And as a context, because this sounds really beautiful, but we are processing just 10 tons per day, and we have 1,800 times more waste to process in Peru every day. So to get this change, we need more actors, more agents that do the same. And also we have to work with the public policies because this needs to be more profitable. And now it is not. And we need to change this reality. We also want to tell you that our vision is to have a waste-free Peru. And this means that in the following 5 years, we are going to implement net 10 hubs. And we just started to work in Arequipa. This is a news that I am sharing with you. This is our first operation outside Lima, because in Lima, we have some infrastructure, but in the regions, we don't have any. And our goal is to recover more than 800,000 tons of organic waste. That means to manage the waste from 1 million people. That is a low number compared to the 33 million people in Peru, but for us it's a lot. And if we can do more, that will be great, but this is our plan. Thank you very much for this opportunity, and I would like to invite you to continue to co-create this waste-free world. Thank you very much, people. Thank you for sharing your experience. I love to hear about your work and also everything that you are doing in Lima. And in the chat, there is a lot of interest to continue to know what you are doing and also to visit this plant. And I think that one of the goals of these projects is to connect people. So we are going to share the information in our website. And Ian Melchorita, could you share your screen?
Eduardo is going to mention some of the presentations based on his experience. Eduardo is an agronomist engineer. He has worked on the district energy networks, and he has worked on the Agency of Sustainability from Chile as a manager of the municipality of Temuco. And also he has broad knowledge on emphasizing the valuation of organic waste. He also has experience in Compost Chile. So, Eduardo, let us know about the main items that you consider are important, and we can start our debate. Yes, thank you, Graciela. Can you hear me? Yes, we can hear you. Well, after these two presentations, including Catherine's presentation, I will have to say that I am quite motivated. I'm quite excited. At the same time, I think that we are able to acknowledge the size of the problem. I think we are clear about it. And like people said, because probably I'm gonna quote him on several things because he's the last one that spoke. But he said that it is important that there's to understand that there's a long way to go, and there's a lot of things to do, a lot of tasks of us involved, and for the people hearing this talk at the moment. So just to start, I would like to mention that we have heard in both presentations about the comparisons. That means, for example, the Buenos Aires government, how did it face these problems? They work with 6 tons per day. So we will have to be bold in order to manage it. So of course, we know everything that is involved from the city of Buenos Aires. She was talking about managing waste from the city of Buenos Aires, doing some changes in their own processes, and also talking about these business models that they were incorporating. Uh, this is what we're seeing in Latin America. We see lots of opportunities in which the private sector can be involved via biddings, for example. This enables people with expertise to build, operate, transfer the facilities, extend an operation contract, unlike what happens in Latin America. And I'm going to talk about Chile now. Several of the municipalities, in most cases, they are faced with the fact that they need to do something because there is a legal mandate, at least in Chile, that municipalities need to have these responsibilities. So they undergo in a hard task because there's a complex task in identifying who is the financing source. So we need to see, or we can discuss how we can incorporate innovation in the business model. And this is the message that I receive from the experience in Buenos Aires. There's a alliance with the public and private sector, and I'm sure that the regulation regarding standards and the legal framework is there for you guys to continue. But regards the with regards to people's presentation, I would like to highlight the interview that he shared in a given moment in his LinkedIn platform, and they shared something that is important in Simba, right? With Andrea Rivera, we met in Colombia in the launch of this community of practice, and Andrea, in this post, she says something that it is really important. And also people mentioned this in his presentation, but this is related to the challenge of facing the lack of formality, uh, or having this competition, and this is a reality in Latin America. Several of the from the South countries, particularly in South America, it's complex to face this informality when we lack legislations, when we lack standards, we compete for cost. We are competing for the sanitary landfill that will be the cheapest in South America, and that's a reality in several of our countries. Disposal, of course, is cheap, so that would be hard in order to have incentives to do things the proper or suitable way. I would like to start finishing because I know that I don't have enough time, but the main challenges that I identify for Latin America, I will have to start talking about that, and then the opportunities we have seen in the in this presentation. We have seen lack of a structure or infrastructure and financing. We don't have enough plants that could continue with the composting and share the technologies. We also have a lack of technical capacity to finance and accompany the projects for the local government. On the other hand, we have a weak legal framework, fragmented legal framework, and we don't have common technical standards. Also, I would like to mention that if there is a legal framework, sometimes we don't have enough capacity to have a follow-up on the compliance. We know that there's a low segregation in the source of origin. We have a limit of recirculation of organic matter, so we need to mm, support on providing a change, because Catherine was talking about having more capabilities to generate a change of behavior. And I think that this was reflected on people's presentation, in Simba's presentation. And he started discussing the presence on the media, for example. We know that this is a proper way to support a change of behavior. And with that, I would like to discuss the environmental sector. We all know the potential of the compost, the digestate, the circular organic economy. And I would like to add that if we strengthen education, awareness, we can also help on the demand of such. For example, this is clear on compost. What are the possibilities of putting this product in the market? And finally, we know that the urban or rural areas don't have an access for waste management. And sometimes talking about this individualism could be a challenge, the lack of association with these local governments. So I think that the fact that there's no common association is what could be missing. And also, I would like to discuss the strategic opportunities. First of all, encouraging or motivating the circular economies. Personally, I have been involved in the decentralized management process. Um, of course, we're not talking about Buenos Aires, but because they need to do it by obligation, but we can focus on decentralization of organic waste, respecting the hierarchy of waste instead of mobilizing waste towards centralized facilities. Community composting, farming evaluation also could provide greater values for our territories. And this is something that in our region we are trying to encourage and motivate through agro-composting. Also, people has mentioned reducing the greenhouse emissions related to compost and improving the soil as well. So we're talking about compost and digestate. These basically improve digestion, improves the capture of these gases. We have been also witness of some activities of the community of practice to have a carbon dioxide capture. So this is related um, to the use of chemical ingredients as well. So I would like to discuss also how we can cooperate on reducing the demand of compost. And a third point would be improving the agro-industrial potential. We're talking about countries or region that have large farming opportunities, and a fourth benefit could be oriented this towards climate change. In Chile and the rest of countries of Latin America, we need to make proper steps in reducing the disposal of organic waste in the landfills. And also we need to avoid and reducing any uh, loss of waste. Finally, innovation and regional cooperation. I think this is key. The exchange of good practices, such as this event right now, exchanging information regarding standards, technical solutions that could take place between Latin America. Um, this, of course, has taken place with the involvement of Andrea and people in Peru, in addition to what Catherine has shared in the beginning regarding the Global North cities and the C40. So that will be all. Thank you for this rich conversation. And now I will give the go ahead to Ana Maria, sorry, and Santiago. Just before continuing with Ana Maria, thank you for your kind words. I think you have summarized suitably the different challenges that we faced as an institution and as people interested in waste management and reducing the methane emissions. So thank you for your words, Eduardo. I think we have an agreement, and I hope that we all have an agreement on the different challenges and the next steps that we should follow as society. And thank you. And now, Ana Maria, you can go ahead. Yes. So now people and Andy, maybe, I don't know if maybe some questions related to specific information that you have shared. I don't know if maybe you can directly reply, just out of respect for your own time. I don't know if maybe we could stay 10 more minutes than scheduled. This was scheduled only for 90 minutes, but it's important to hear some answers. I see that they are directly responding, but there are several questions related to financing. And what Catherine was mentioning with a specific case, for example, $1 invested in reducing any type of food waste could represent $13 of earnings. But the problem is, how do I find the resources to start or to operate? I'm going to take questions. First of all, people, I don't know if you have a sort of incentive from the government, and also what will be the challenges to trade the carbon credits or bonds from the work that you do. And Andy, how much do people pay uh, for the treatment of the organic waste, and how much that does the government receive in this case? And Catherine, for the C40, this is our organization on cities worldwide, but these are large cities. So where is this financing coming from for this type of campaigns, and and financing other tools that you just mentioned? I don't know if quickly we can reply to these general questions in this round, people.
Yes, thank you for the question. Regarding incentives, we don't have systemic incentives really, besides a regulation, but that it is non being met. And indirect incentive is some auditing to the ones that are not complying with these regulations, but it doesn't happen. We have had some funds by a program that is called ProInnovate, that is equivalent to Corfo in Chile. So this is our very specific funds. So we present a project and we can receive these funds if the project is approved. We have had two of these funds. One very important that is a startup Peru. That was our first financing in our history. It was a very important driver. It was like $50,000. That may not seem very important now, but back then it was very significant for us. And regarding carbon and plastic credits, we have not commercialized any of these credits. As I was mentioning, it is important for us to have a data infrastructure, to have evidence on regarding our impact, and eventually be able to certificate our process by this credit environment. We are studying both proposals, but regarding plastic credits, we don't have a lot of market now. And regarding carbon credits, we have the market, but our scale, we did about 1,500 tons last year. So it is very low. So this investment is not justified right now because investment is quite large. So what we have decided, and we also have a partner that is called Co-Zero to develop carbon credits because they specialize in organic waste credits or credits based on organic waste. And we have decided that once we reach 5,000 tons per year, we are going to enter into this investment. And it is going to make sense to make this effort. It is not only to have this accreditation, we need also to undergo auditing, and we need to do a lot of process. Thank you very much, people. Andy? Yes. Well, the citizens of the government of the city of Buenos Aires, we don't pay a fee related to organic waste or waste management. We pay another indirect fee that is related to cleaning, about $20 to $40 per household, depending on the area. But this fee covers different cleaning aspects, not only waste management. It is a comprehensive fee that covers the hygiene service. And the government receives this in the common funds, and then they diversify for the different projects, but there is not direct correlation between the waste management and this fee. Thank you very much, Andy. Catherine?
Yeah, so I want to quickly go back to the waste hierarchy that I had mentioned at the beginning to say that when I talk about reduction, what I really mean is everything that happens before something ends up turning into waste. So where you can really create the financial benefits is in reducing what you end up creating in terms of waste. After that, the story becomes quite different, and generally it becomes somehow costly, and somebody needs to pay for it, which generally happens, as Andy just mentioned, through fees that you pay to the city. A part of it can generally be covered through actions that people is that working with. So really generating some kind of secondary resource through the food waste once it's treated and selling it. But generally for cities, there is a cost attached to it that has somehow needs to be recovered. Although it depends always a bit on the local context. So whatever you for example, don't need to transport very far away to landfills, so you can really generate some savings by not having these large transport ways, or also through saved gate fees at landfills. But this really depends a lot on the local context. Yeah, in that sense, it's really highest value to try to go as high on the waste hierarchy as possible to avoid anything to become waste, because afterwards things get much more expensive and more difficult to deal with.
Well, we would like to have more time. We have a lot of questions in the Q&A, but before giving the floor to Santiago for the closing segment, I would like to thank all the people who were part of this webinar and all the coordinators of this webinar. And we would like to thank Catherine and also Andrea and Pipo and Eduardo. Thank you very much for your contributions. And also the people who have been part of this webinar as attendees. We have different questions regarding the practice community and the recording. We have a website in the MetLAC community practice. And here you can find information about our practice community and also our contact information if you're interested on being part of this community. And there you may find the video and the presentations. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for the interest. And I would like to give the floor to my colleague Santiago Uribe from CCAP for the closure and the conclusions. This summary is very important. We're going to have this summary regarding the lessons that we have learned during this session. Thank you very much. And for the ones who have a holiday tomorrow because of Labor Day, have a nice Labor Day. Go ahead, Santiago. Thank you very much. I think that we needed some Colombian contribution in this session. So I'm glad that I'm here presenting Colombia. I would like to thank for your contribution in this valuable space. We are taking some lessons learned that confirm that this waste management or this organic waste management is not only possible, but it is required. And for that, we need a commitment between the private sector, the citizens, and the government. With Catherine Seller, we understood how the C40 member cities, through this network, are taking concrete actions to reduce organic waste by reusing organic waste. We have seen that there is a solid base and we need these clear regulations and also trust to invest to have a significant impact. One example, as Ana Maria repeated, is that each dollar invested by the private sectors in restaurants could be translated into $14 of return. So here we are seeing some efficiency and profitability. With Andrea Paez, we heard about this experience in the autonomous city of Buenos Aires, and we were reminded that the public-private partnership has to be strengthened. And also the creation of realistic regulations. These are points that we need to address in the entire region. And also through this articulation, through this partnership, we are going to be able to turn these challenges into opportunities. And with People Riser's presentation, we saw the Peruvian context with a very important number. That is 76% of organic waste are capable of being reused, but we are only using a very low amount of them. So we are seeing a commitment by the private sector. And in Latin America, we can see that this private sector can be an agent of change when the conditions are helpful, but the conditions are not always helpful. So I would like to congratulate people also because of his new plant in Arequipa. And finally, with the conclusions by Eduardo, we strengthened a clear idea. Each situation is facing particular challenges, but they all have the opportunity to integrate the private sector. So we have some evidence, some hope, and now it is very clear that reducing organic waste in the landfills, it is not only a priority, but it is also mandatory because of the consequences. And also we see that the private sector is not only a secondary actor, but it is a strategic partners. We need to create enabling conditions. We have to strengthen regulations in order to have these solutions in the entire Latin American region. Thank you very much for being part of this discussion. And this is going to become a driver for us to continue to build a new narrative to manage organic waste in our region. Thank you very much and see you in the next session. Thank you very much, Santiago. And thank you to all of our attendees. Thank you to C40 for the collaboration, and also thank you to our panelists. And here you can see our QR code to enter our practice community website. Here you can see also the recordings of other events that we have had. Here also you are going to find our contact information. And next week, you're going to have available this recording and materials. Thank you very much. And have a beautiful afternoon or day, wherever you are located. Thank you for being here. Goodbye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.